The true story of the Immortal's origin is currently a mystery, even to the Immortal himself. Due to the severe memory loss that the Immortal suffers from, he can only remember sketchy details about his past and the mysterious origin of his powers. The only fact that is known about the Immortal's past is that some 3,000 years ago, he was born and lived his life as a mortal human being. Then, a mysterious incident occurred, and its origins were unknown. It could have been an irradiated meteorite falling from the skies, or a mystical duel between rival superpowers, alien experimentation, or even a side effect of a dimensional rift. All that is known is that after the incident occurred, the Immortal was imbued with belief-defying superhuman powers and the gift of true immortality. So after gaining his powers, the Immortal wandered about the world, exploring it in the way that only a man with nothing but time on his hands could. During that time, he supposedly traveled to England under the guise of Lancelot. There, he joined a young king named Arthur and his circle of knights. Sometime afterward, he allegedly sailed the girth of the Atlantic Ocean under the guise of Columbus and discovered new lands. He has even told a tale where he assumed the guise of Abraham Lincoln and ruled the United States when the former president could no longer serve his country. Undisclosed events in the early days of the 20th century convinced the Immortal that he could do more good for the people of the earth if he came out of the shadows. Then, he decided that he would now use his superhuman abilities openly as a costumed champion of justice. As time progressed, his example spurred other costume adventurers to come out of the proverbial woodwork. Thus, he soon found himself surrounded by superhumanly powerful and like-minded allies that he would eventually call friends. The group decided to make their loose association official and founded the Guardians of the Globe. It didn't take long for the team to gain official support from the Global Defense Agency. With the government's support and Omni-Man's addition to the team, the Guardians of the Globe became the Earth's premier team of superheroes and remained so for years. One day, the Immortal received a summons over his Guardian communicator while he was battling his old foe called the Biplane. Immediately after he defeated Biplane, the Immortal flew towards the mountainside headquarters of the Guardians of the Globe. The entire team was there except Omni-Man. As the group tried to ascertain exactly why they were summoned, they were all murdered in a single blur of motion. The Immortal was the only one spared, and only for a moment at that time. He had just enough time to look at his team's murderer, Omni-Man, in the face and spit a curse before Omni-Man beheaded him with a single powerful blow. The Immortal only had a few days before he was revived by the Mauler twins. The Maulers had reattached the Immortal's head to his body and affixed a control collar which they hoped would allow them to control the ancient hero. Unfortunately for them, the Immortal awoke in a rage. He battered his way out of the Maulers' confined headquarters, seeking nothing less than bloody vengeance. It only took him a few hours to find his former ally battling a titanic monster on one of the many beaches of Los Angeles. Without warning or pause, the Immortal attacked Omni-Man in full view of the civilians and television cameras. Though he took Omni-Man by surprise initially, the brawl quickly turned south for the Eternal Warrior. Omni-Man quickly asserted his physical superiority. It only took a few additional moments for the past to repeat itself, and the Immortal found himself torn in two pieces once again. Not at his neck, but instead at his waist this time. The Immortal's remains were recovered far more quickly this time by members of the GDA. Once his discarded halves were reattached, he immediately returned to life. He awoke to discover that Omni-Man's treachery had been revealed. Furthermore, Omni-Man's own son, Invincible, had attempted to punish his father for his deeds. Left with nothing more to do, the Immortal returned to a new incarnation of the Guardians of the Globe. At first, he was there as an advisor, and then as its leader. As time passed and the Guardians spent more time together, the Immortal began to find himself being drawn to one of the young female members of the team, known as Duplicate. Despite his initial reluctance to do so, the two eventually entered into a passionate relationship and fell deeply in love. The two remained active members of the Guardians of the Globe. They participated in several adventures together before getting married on a whim. Married life was an adjustment for both heroes. The Immortal had to fight his instinct to protect his wife, and Kate wanted nothing less than to be treated as an equal and capable member of the team. This all came to a head when the two were separated during two simultaneous Guardians missions. The Immortal was forced to face a Martian armada in the dark reaches of space, alongside Invincible and several of the Guardians' heavy hitters. Meanwhile, Kate was sent with Rexplode and Shrinking Ray to prevent the Lizard League from acquiring tactical nuclear devices from a secure government location. Even as the Immortals team was vastly successful in their mission, Kate's ended in tragedy, with the deaths of both Kate and Shrinking Ray. The Immortal was informed of Kate's death upon his return from space. He immediately began to spiral into a deep state of depression and rage, and he found himself lashing out at friends and opponents alike and was at a complete loss of control. Eventually, he realized that he was losing control, and he took a leave of absence from the Guardians before he seriously hurt someone else. The Immortal exiled himself to the far reaches of the Canadian North for months while trying to find his center once more. But his solitude was cut short though when he received the surprise of his life. One day, he returned from a fishing trip and found his wife, Kate, standing shyly in the center of his cabin. Kate revealed to the Immortal that for the entirety of their time together, he had been interacting with one of her duplicates. Her true body remained hidden away in a secret location known only to her. It was this fact that had made her so fearless in battle. As long as her zero body survived, she was functionally as immortal as he. With the two joyfully united and his center restored, the Immortal cautiously returned to his active duty with the Guardians. His caution was well warranted, as the next two adventures he undertook with the Guardians ended poorly. He first found him leading what remained of the fractured Guardians team against their former ally, Invincible. They had a falling out with Cecil Stedman. Invincible had decided to help the fugitive Gary Hampton, also known as Wolfman, escape from GDA custody. The Immortal himself attempted to apprehend the young Viltrumite, but Invincible's strength proved to be too much for the Immortal. Like his father before him, Invincible single-handedly trounced the Guardians and easily escaped. But the worst was yet to come for Immortal. Later, Angstrom Levi unleashed 16 extra-dimensional duplicates of the young hero Invincible. One of the more vicious of the doppelgangers attacked the Guardians. This version of Invincible had no compunctions about utilizing lethal force against his foes and tore through the Guardians in seconds. He casually slaughtered every one of Kate's duplicates, beheaded the Immortal, and ultimately forced the hero Darkwing to sacrifice his life to halt his rampage. This last loss proved to be too much for the Immortal. Concerns over his new wife's safety and his own relative powerlessness before his last string of foes caused him to seriously consider retirement. It was an easy decision for him, as Kate had already suggested starting a family. So with that, the Immortal retired from active duty and bought a home in the suburbs. Before long, the Immortal and Kate started a new family. Kate gave birth to a pair of twins, and they were exactly the same as Kate and her brother. The next year passed relatively uneventfully for the Immortal until Dinosaurus flooded every coastal city worldwide. With the death toll numbering in the millions, the Immortal could no longer stand by on the sidelines and came out of retirement. Kate, however, remained retired in order to rear their children. Then later, when Robot decided to take control of Earth, he started killing all the superheroes and villains who he considered a threat for himself, and so he sent a few of his drones to handle Immortal and Kate. The drones managed to kill most of Kate's duplicates and seriously injure Immortal, but Immortal managed to survive and escape with his children. Later, he tried to fight Robot multiple times, but every time they tried, Immortal and his allies were found and defeated by Robot. At one point, he even tries to convince Invincible to help him out, but due to his personal reason, Invincible refuses to help him. So Immortal finally accepts his defeat, just like many other superheroes, and starts working under the command of Robot. Years later, on a different planet, Invincible touched a white light that put him back into his body at the time before he received his powers, and with all of his memories. He attempted to talk to his father about not killing the Guardians of the Globe again, but Nolan became angry and immediately attacked Mark. So Mark led him to Utah, where he tricked Nolan into smashing into the Guardians of the Globe headquarters, where the Immortal and several others were located. Mark revealed Nolan's plan to the Guardians, and they teamed up and subdued Nolan. During the battle, the Immortal had his heart punched out of him by Nolan. Then, Cecil Stedman soon arrived and agreed to bring Nolan back to the Pentagon and restrain him, and the Immortal was revealed to have survived the attack due to his immortality. However, this timeline was probably destroyed when Invincible returned to his home timeline. So, in the original timeline, after the final Viltrumite War, Invincible becomes the new Viltrumite Emperor and decides to leave Earth with all his Viltrumites. But before he left Earth, the Immortal was appointed the ruler of the planet Earth by Invincible. He was given the task of ruling over this small part of Invincible's empire, while Mark went deep into space with the rest of his family. The appointment was only supposed to be a short one, but neither Invincible nor any member of his family returned for centuries. As the centuries passed, the Immortal's unending existence drove him mad. He desperately searched for a way to end his life. Failing to find one, he became a cruel despot with the intention of forcing his subjects to find a way to kill him. His prayers were answered when a pair of rebels utilized a time machine to travel deep into the past and return with the one man who had enough raw power to stop the Immortal, Invincible himself. Upon his arrival, Invincible was immediately taken into custody. Invincible soon found himself face to face with the Immortal, who begged him for death. Even after a long and poignant explanation, Invincible refused to murder his friend. This drove the Immortal into a frenzy, and he attacked Mark again and again in an attempt to provoke him into battle. Finally, with the realization that his friend was in true agony, Invincible wrenched the Immortal's head from his shoulders, granting him his final request. So this was Immortal's end, but not completely, because he can come back to life if his head gets reattached. But still, this was the last time we get to see him. So yeah, that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.